Breaking news, y'all. Gervonta, Ike Turner, Tank Davis will be fighting Jake the Snake Paul November 15th in the State Farm Arena in Atlanta on November 15th, bro. I can't believe this, man. We are not getting the Gervonta Tank Davis rematch with Lamont Roach Jr., where he brought Lamont Roach up from 130 to 135. That was Roach's first fight at 135. It was a cherry pick gone wrong. Let's just call it what it is. Lamont Roach beat the shit out of Gervonta Tank Davis, made him take a knee, made him run to the corner and wipe his eyes because he started crying. And we're not getting a rematch, y'all. You know, Gervonta Tank Davis got arrested, I think a month or two ago, for domestic violence for his baby mom for the second time in less than 2 years against the same baby mom, because I think he has like 2 or 3 baby mamas, right? He beat the case. The baby mom dropped the charges for the second time in a row. And Lamont Roach is on the sidelines, you know, waiting for Tank to, you know, officially sign the contract so we can get a date for this fight. And he's ducking, okay? Now, for those that don't know, before the first fight took place with Tank and Lamont Roach, Gervonta Tank Davis, after he thought he was going to beat Lamont Roach, he already was going to sign a contract to fight Jake Paul later on this year. So I guess Tank doesn't want to risk losing against Lamont Roach Jr. because the first fight was so close. He's not willing to face adversity and fight Lamont Roach again. He doesn't want to risk losing or getting another draw. So he's jumping straight into the Jake Paul fight. And let's just call it what it is, man. Tank is taking this fight for money, because when you look at both fighters, this fight doesn't make any sense, right? Gervonta Tank Davis, I believe he's 5'5". Let me see how tall Tank is. I want to give you guys accurate measurement to Tank, no homo. Okay, so Tank is 5'5", right? He fights at 135. Jake Paul is pretty much a cruiserweight. I believe Jake Paul fights in the cruiserweight division, but I think Jake Paul walks around well over 200 pounds. Let's see how tall Jake Paul is. So Jake Paul is, how tall is he? Jake Paul is 6 feet. So he's much taller than Tank, weighs much more than Tank. He fights at cruiserweight and heavyweight. So Jake Paul walks around over 200 pounds. And he's fighting Gervonta Tank Davis, who's 5'5", that fights at 135. So this fight makes no sense at all. The only thing Tank has going for himself is obviously him being a professional boxer, him boxing since he was a kid, him being, you know, I believe he was a champion 2 or 3 times already in the sport of boxing. Gervonta Tank Davis has one of the highest knockout rates in boxing, right? He's knocked out almost everybody that he stepped in the ring with. And I think that's the only thing he has going for himself going into this Jake Paul fight. The experience, he has the skill set, he has the knockout power. But is that power going to translate to a guy that's coming into the ring at or above 200 pounds, right? Plus, this guy is 6 feet tall, so it's going to be harder for Tank to punch this guy. It's going to be a very interesting fight. Now, I'm going to be honest with y'all. For casual boxing fans, I think that this fight is great for the sport of boxing, because let's be honest, right? At this point in time, whether you think he's a real boxer or not, this YouTuber turned boxer, Jake Paul, he is by far the most popular boxer in the sport of boxing right now. Like, I think Jake Paul, in my opinion, I think Jake Paul, he brings more attention to the sport of boxing than Canelo Alvarez does. He just does. Let's just call it what it is, man. Because he has decided to, you know, fight MMA fighters and fight, you know, retired legends like Mike Tyson, Jake Paul has cultivated a very big fan base. He has his fans that he had when he was doing YouTube, when he was on Disney Channel and shit like that. And now he has fans that rock with him for his boxing performances, right? He knocked out former NBA basketball player Nate Robinson. You know, he fought Tyson Fury's brother, Tommy Fury, where he suffered his first loss, but I think that was a close fight. Listen, man, this is great for the sport of boxing. You got Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis. I would say Gervonta Tank Davis is, you know, the third face of boxing after Jake Paul and Canelo. Tank has a huge fan base due to his incredible knockouts that he's had in his career. And I think that this fight is going to bring a lot of attention to the sport of boxing. And if this fight can live up to the hype, if either Jake Paul or Tank can win this fight by knockout, then I think that this elevates the sport of boxing. Because let's just be honest, guys. to the hardcore boxing fans that are complaining about this fight, right? Let's be honest. Boxing is not even close to how popular it used to be back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, even the early 2000s. Let's just call it what it is. You can't name 5 current boxers that can walk around New York City or LA and they get recognized. Let's just call it what it is, man. Boxing has fallen off due to lackluster fights, due to fights like Floyd versus Manny Pacquiao not living up to the hype. Due to corrupt things happening in the sport of boxing, people being robbed of victories that they deserve to win. There's a lot of reasons why people have turned away from the sport of boxing. Let's just call it what it is. And Jake Paul, whether you like him or not, whether you consider him a real boxer or not, he is a professional boxer that brings a lot of eyes to the sport of boxing. He has his own promotional company, shout out to MVP, where he signs boxers like Alicia Baumgartner and other people like that. And he's making money, man. He's making sure that his fighters get paid properly. He brings a big fan base to the sport of boxing. And whenever Jake Paul fights, regardless of who his opponent is, people are going to tune in to watch. And if he can somehow pull off this win against Gervonta Tank Davis, Jake Paul is going to the stars, man. I'm just going to call it what it is. I remember when he fought Mike Tyson, everybody thought Mike Tyson was going to win that fight except for me. I was telling everybody that I know in real life. I was telling the homies that I play with on the PlayStation, homies that I play Grand Theft Auto with. I said, listen, man, Jake Paul is going to win this fight because Mike Tyson is old. He does drugs. He's always talking about taking the toad and smoking weed and doing ayahuasca. Mike Tyson hasn't had a professional fight in years. You know what I'm saying? And he's almost a senior citizen. And everything I said came to fruition. But everybody was telling me, everybody that I know in real life was telling me that Mike Tyson was going to knock Jake Paul out even at an old age. They were saying that even though Mike Tyson is old, he still has power. He still has, strength. And they were watching the sparring videos where Mike Tyson was moving all fast and shit. And, they played themselves. They really thought Mike was going to win that fight, right? So listen, as a hardcore boxing fan, I'm going to be honest with y'all because I'm going to give you guys both sides of the coin, right? As a hardcore boxing fan, this is a spit in the face to real boxing fans out there for Gervonta Tank Davis. But I don't understand why people are so mad because this is who Tank has been showing who he is since he first came into the sport of boxing. He's constantly on Twitter and doing interviews saying that he wants to fight Devin and he wants to fight Shakur and he wants to fight Teo and he wants to fight Terrence Crawford. But when they call him out and there's an opportunity to make those fights happen, he doesn't make it happen. Gervonta Tank Davis has made it clear since he first started getting trendy and his name started popping back when he was still with Floyd Mayweather. He has made it very clear that his main goal in the sport of boxing is to make as much money as he can with fighting the least competition as he can. He never had intentions of fighting anybody that is looked at as elite. That was never his plan. That was never his plan. And he's just showing you guys that, he's here to make money. You look at the Ryan Garcia fight, right? He put Ryan Garcia on a rehydration clause. Ryan Garcia was in the ring looking like Michael Jackson from Thriller. He was a shell of himself. And that helped Tank win that fight with a body shot because Ryan Garcia was drained. Let's just call it what it is. You look at the Ryan Garcia that fought Devin Haney, whether he was on Osterine or not, that was a complete different version of Ryan Garcia. You can clearly see Ryan Garcia was much bigger, right? You can clearly see that he was much more comfortable. He was much more healthier. He was much more stronger. And y'all saw how that fight played out, right? Now, we know he popped dirty for Osterine, but I'm just showing you guys the comparison between a healthy Ryan Garcia that's not on a rehydration clause versus a Ryan Garcia that's drained. You understand what I'm saying? That's pretty much killing himself to make the weight, You could even look at Ryan's fight against Oscar Duarte. That was the fight that he took before he fought Devin Haney, and he looked better than that fight that he did against Tank as well. So this is what Tank does, man. Tank is the kind of guy, because he's the A side, because he has a big fan base, because he sells out arenas, he's going to do everything in his power to make sure that he doesn't lose, which is why his most recent fight against Lamont Roach Jr., this is why he brought him up from 130 up to 135, because it was a cherry pick, right? Him and Lamont Roach Jr. are actually friends in real life. They grew up together. They fought each other 3 or 4 times in the amateurs. They're very familiar with each other. Obviously, Tank is from Baltimore. Lamont Roach is from DC. And he pretty much wanted to give his homeboy a payday. But the problem is, because Tank is so cool with Lamont Roach, he came into this fight too comfortable, too friendly. He wasn't on demon time like he was against Frank Martin. And Lamont Roach came in there to win the fight, because Lamont Roach knows that if he could beat Tank, then he would get paid much more for each fight in the sport of boxing. You understand what I'm saying? So, as a hardcore boxing fan, man, this is a spit in the face to boxing fans. I don't think any hardcore wants to see Tank versus Jake Paul. It doesn't make any sense. Jake Paul's a cruiserweight. Jake Paul is 6 feet tall. Gervonta Tank Davis fights at 135. He's only 5'5". He's damn near a midget. And, this just doesn't make any sense. The only reason why Tank is doing this is because obviously he's the more experienced boxer. He's the more proven boxer. You understand what I'm saying? And he's going in there with a guy that, is pretty much a YouTuber turned boxer. So he's pretty much taking this fight because he knows his chances of winning is very high. And he's going to get the biggest payday of his career. I think Tank is going to make more money for this fight than he did when he fought Ryan Garcia, which went on to be one of the highest pay-per-view selling fights in pay-per-view history. You understand what I'm saying? So with that being said, man, it's obvious that after this fight, Gervonta Tank Davis is going to retire, right? He no longer is interested in being a full-time boxer. If you guys watch his interview that he did before he fought Lamont Roach, he said that he was going to fight one or two more times, right? Obviously, now he's only fighting one more time. He said he was going to finish this year, and he said after 2025, he was going to retire from the sport of boxing. Why? Because he said that he wants to be a better father to his kids. He wants to be a better man to his girlfriend, because Tank has a problem. He carries that same anger that he brings into the ring when he fights. He carries that same anger outside of the ring, right? He always feels like he has to be on demon time. He always feels like he has to be in war mode. And he feels like he can't be a good parent for his kids. And he feels like he can't be a better overall man unless he retires, so he doesn't have to feel like that anymore. And listen, he's proven that to be true. We just saw him get arrested for domestic violence again. And it's obvious that that's the case, man. I think that Gervonta Tank Davis should seek therapy. I think that he should hire a therapist. I think that he should take anger management classes. But, dudes from the hood, they don't like doing that because they don't want to feel like they're soft, right? They think that they're soft if they go hire a therapist and they speak to people about their problems. But it's very beneficial, man. And, he feels like he has to retire to let those demons out of him, right? And listen, man, we have to give respect when it's due, right? When you look at Gervonta Tank Davis's upbringing, right? For those that don't know, Gervonta Tank Davis is a crack baby. I don't know if y'all know that or not, but Gervonta Tank Davis has been on record saying that his mom did drugs. His mom was a crack addict, right? So the reason why Tank punches so hard and the reason why he be knocking dudes out is because he's a crack baby. And anybody from the hood knows that crack babies are superhumans. They're, they got superhuman strength. You feel me? Like they're literally like the characters from X-Men. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, man, his mom gave him up to foster care. He was a foster child. Him and his brother was adopted. They were in and out of foster homes. And he had a very rough upbringing, man. He used to get into a lot of fights in school. And the fact that he ended up getting signed by Floyd Money Mayweather, and the fact that he ended up becoming one of the faces of boxing, making millions of dollars. We have to give props when it's due. I want to congratulate Gervonta Tank Davis for that, because for him to come from where he comes from and for him to become as successful as he is, I'm proud of Tank. And we have to, give props when it's due, man. That is not easy. Like, he defied the odds, man. Most people in his situation would have either ended up in jail or dead at a young age. And he ended up, making something out of himself, man. So listen, Every boxer doesn't want to be Floyd Mayweather. Every boxer doesn't want to be Muhammad Ali. Every boxer doesn't want to be Roy Jones, right? Unfortunately, man, Tank isn't one of these boxers that wants to fight tough competition and prove that he's the best. Even though he said it in interviews, his actions prove that that's not really how he feels. And I think Tank boxes specifically for money, man. And that is the true definition of selling your soul. To anybody listening to this video, bro, if you're doing something specifically to make money and you're not doing it because you're passionate about it, it's something that you enjoy doing, it's something that you actually like doing, you sold your soul. I'm just gonna call it what it is, man. And Gervonta Tank Davis is a prime example of that. Now, I wanna also say this, right? Can you guys imagine if Jake Paul knocked out Gervonta Tank Davis and won this fight? That'll be the ultimate stain on Gervonta Tank Davis's career. And not only that, I think that that'll be the ultimate stain on the sport of boxing. Because of a guy like Jake Paul, who was on Disney Channel and was a YouTuber, who just decided to start boxing out of nowhere, if he can go in there and knock out a professional boxer like Tank, Gervonta Tank Davis, I think that'll be incredible, man. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, I want to see that happen. I don't want to see Gervonta Tank Davis knock out Jake Paul, make $50 to $100 million and just retire and never fight again. No. I don't want to see that. Because all of the hardcore boxing fans, we still want to see you fight Shakur Stevenson. We still want to see you fight Devin the Dream Debo Haney. We still want to see you fight Teofimo Cokehead Lopez, right? We still want these fights, bruh. We want to see these fights. We still want to see you fight Keyshawn Davis. You dig what I'm saying? Like, there's so many fights that we still want to see with Tank. And we still want to see the rematch with Lamont Roach Jr. So the fact that you about to just fight Jake Paul, make the biggest payday of your career, and then retire, nah, bruh. I don't like that. Because you're leaving the hardcore boxing fans unsatisfied. And to all of the Gervonta Tank Davis fans out there, how do you explain this? You guys are the same guys that criticize Devin Haney for having pillow hands. You criticize Devin Haney for getting dropped 3 or 4 times against Ryan Garcia and his face getting swollen and looking like Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks. You guys criticize Shakur Stevenson for running around the ring against Edwin De Los Santos. But guess what? At least these guys are facing tough competition. Devin Haney is about to fight Brian Norman Jr. at 147 for the belt. You know, arguably the best boxer at 147 right now. You dig what I'm saying? Devin Haney fought a non-rehydration clause Ryan Garcia. You know, Devin Haney fought Vasily Lomachenko. You know, who is Gervonta Tank Davis fought? Tank didn't try to fight Lomachenko until he already lost multiple times. You feel me? Like, Tank didn't try to fight Shakur Stevenson. Tank didn't try to fight Devin Haney. Tank didn't try to fight Regis Prograis at 140. You guys forgot Regis Prograis was calling out Tank, and Tank said he would fight him, but it never happened. Tank didn't even fight what's the dude name that got knocked out by Floyd Schofield? Tevin Farmer. Tevin Farmer called out Tank face to face, and Tank wouldn't fight him. Tank wouldn't even fight Gary Russell Jr. So with that being said, man, what do you Gervonta Tank Davis fans have to say now? Are you guys satisfied at the fact that he's going to fight Jake Paul and he's going to retire and you're never going to see any of the fights that you were supposed to see? Are you guys happy about this? Because if you are, slap the shit out of yourself. You played yourself. You know, go to the bathroom and pee and let your pee splash in your face on some R. Kelly shit. Because if you're proud of that, if you can still sit there and say that you're a proud Gervonta Tank Davis fan and you have no critique over Tank fighting Jake Paul instead of rematching Lamont Roach Jr., you a bitch. Because Tank has showed that when he's faced with adversity, he runs away from it. So with that being said, man, it's your boy Wavy, Stay Wavy TV. Once again, Gervonta Tank Davis will be fighting Jake Paul November 15th in Atlanta. Regarding the weight limit, it's not finalized yet. what fight this weight class will take place at. But Jake Paul's last fight took place at 200 pounds, man. So that's all I got for y'all, man. Let me know what y'all think about this. It's your boy Wavy, Stay Wavy TV. I'm out.